Welcome, my favorite federal employee. We're glad that you found our channel. My name is Andrew McNair, son of a CSRS employee, founder of SWAN Capital, a total wealth management company where we have a CPA, estate planning attorney, and financial planners all under one roof serving federal employees just like yourself. So today we're covering 4 times that you should run in the opposite direction from a Roth TSP. Now, you probably already know that I love the Roth TSP. It's personally where all my money is in a Roth IRA or Roth 401k. But even great tools can be used at the wrong time. So let's get straight to the point.
Yeah, in fact, let's do a quick refresher, Andrew. What makes the Roth TSP so great?
Yeah, let's start with the basics. When you put money into a traditional TSP, you're getting a tax deferment, not a deduction. So when you put money into a TSP, you're choosing as a farmer to not pay taxes on the seed, that you're delaying to pay the taxes on the harvest at your retirement. Well, the opposite applies to the Roth TSP. You're choosing to pay the taxes on the seed so you can take it out harvest tax-free. So when you take money out of your TSP and when it's in a Roth form, you're not paying any taxes. All that growth is tax-free as well. The second thing, and the reason why I love Roth TSPs, is the legacy planning. You know, heirs can receive a tax-free distribution. So I always joke, at Christmas, it would not go over well if I gave all of my nieces and nephews a coupon inside the box with all the wrapped paper. They would be like, what gives? Why didn't he give us a gift certificate? And the same applies to a TSP versus a Roth TSP. They have to pay taxes to get any benefit. Number 3 is it can actually help you reduce your future IRMA, or what we call Medicare surtax. When you have to take Medicare because of your health situation, you're taking Medicare and FEHB, or maybe you're Medicare and TRICARE. If you make over a certain income, the government penalizes you by making you pay more in Medicare premiums. But if you take money out of a Roth TSP or a Roth IRA, you don't get affected. And so one other disclaimer I have to update people on is, as of 2024, Roth accounts and employer plans like Roth TSPs no longer have to worry about RMDs. And this is why I love Roth IRAs, is there's no required minimum distribution. So I don't have to take money out, which gives me more investment flexibility.
Yeah, I can't wait till Christmas morning. Uncle Andrew gave me a coupon. All right, so all of those benefits. Is there any time, Andrew, that a Roth TSP does not make sense?
I know it's really hard for me to say these words because obviously I'm very pro Roth TSP and pro Roth IRAs. But number 1 is if your income is unusually high for some reason, and we'll cover some of the reasons why you might have one of those high income years that could affect your reason to actually apply your contributions to the Roth TSP side. Number 2 is you plan on doing QCDs, qualified charitable distributions, to your favorite charity or your church. Roth dollars are not ideal for that. Next, you're in your peak earning years, right before retirement, while locking in your high 3, or maybe your spouse is having a record year in their career. And then 4th, you're about to change filing status. Maybe you're getting married, and if so, congratulations, but that will affect your tax brackets in the future, so it may make sense to be hesitant to put money into a Roth TSP.
Now, you talked about there being 4 reasons. The first one, my income is higher now than it will be later.
Yeah, so a classic example is maybe you had a large bonus. Maybe you had deferred compensation from your spouse's side of the table. Maybe there was a big asset sale or an installment sale. You sold a business, a rental property. Maybe your just income has really jumped because of locality pay is a great example. If any of those have happened to you, maybe you were in a lower tax bracket, but now you're in a higher tax bracket for 1 year. And so then it makes sense to oscillate between the traditional TSP more instead of the Roth TSP. The other thing I would encourage you to remember that in retirement, many times people have told me that they're going to actually have lower incomes in retirement. And what I found is that's true. Usually your income could be lower, but your income needs are not always lower. Oftentimes retirees sometimes spend the same or more on healthcare, travel, and hobbies. So consider what your income will be in retirement every year as a comparison, because if your income is going to be about the same, you probably might want to continue contributing to that Roth TSP because tax rates could go higher in the future.
So how should federal employees entertain the thought of toggling between Roth and traditional each year.
Yeah, so you want to treat annual tax bracket management very carefully. It's not a set it and forget it strategy. And what's unique here is, there's many financial planners out there, but we actually have an estate planning attorney and CPA all under one roof. So we work alongside your CPA and ours to make sure that we fill those tax brackets tactically. Remember that tax brackets are kind of like a Russian doll. When you increase that income, you want to go up to the headroom. So if your income spikes in 1 year because of some of the things we mentioned earlier, you might want to favor traditional TSP to lower your current taxes. If your income dips for some reason, maybe you were laid off, maybe your spouse was laid off, maybe you favor Roth IRAs and Roth TSPs, or maybe even consider partial Roth conversions. And so you need to revisit this after any major life change, promotions, buying and selling of real estate, your retirement date moves, that line in the sand moves forward or backwards, or your spouse income has shifted.
All right, you said we'd get back to this, and here we are. Reason number 2, we're big givers, and we plan to use those QCDs, qualified charitable distributions, in retirement.
Yeah, we have so many clients that are so charitable and so generous, and I love seeing it. Qualified charitable distributions are right there in the tax code that if you're over the age of 70 and a half, you can take money directly from an IRA, send it to a 501c3, and never pay any taxes. I mean, I always joke, tax-free Roth TSPs and Roth IRAs are great. I love tax-free money, but what's better than tax-free? Never paying taxes at all. Now, you cannot do that in a Roth TSP or a traditional TSP. You have to do it in an IRA. So QCDs exclude those dollars from taxable income for your tax return if you take it directly from an IRA. And it's a real tax win for generous givers because it counts towards their RMDs. You're going to be forced to take out required minimum distributions at 73 or 75, but QCDs count towards that. And again, you can give up to $100,000 a year. So I encourage you, please keep some of your qualified traditional TSP or your pre-tax IRA dollars for future qualified charitable distributions, and don't overdo it with the Roth if your plan is to give it away tax efficiently.
All right, so we get to reason number 3 now. I'm in my last few high-earning years. Pretty critical.
Yeah. I mean, it's really critical for your pension. You're building that high 3 average. But if retirement, generally our income may drop into a lower tax bracket. But for many of my federal employees, because of their pension, Social Security, military retirement, their income doesn't drop a lot. And so that's why we have to compare your current income to your future income. So in an ideal world, if you have some young colleagues that are young federal employees, we encourage those families to put nearly 100% of their money into the Roth TSP because they're in the lowest tax years probably of their lifetime. Hopefully they don't have less income as they get higher in their promotions and pay scales and step raises. They're going to make more money. But when you're at the end of your career, you've got all of your step increases, you've got all the promotions that you can see in the future. Maybe it makes sense to kind of pare down your Roth TSP contributions. Generally, we recommend 50 to 75% always going to a Roth TSP. But if your spouse just had a major promotion, their business is doing really well, maybe we pare that down to have some into the traditional TSP to lower your tax income for that year.
All right, so we've reached reason number 4. Say I'm getting married or my filing status is going to improve soon.
Yes. It's never too late to tie the knot. I was actually speaking to a 74-year-old yesterday. They've been dating for 5 years, and I say, what's keeping you from getting married? And so we chatted about some of the concerns that they had. I said, but the IRS is winning by you not getting married. Y'all are actually paying more in taxes. So single filers have narrower tax brackets than married filing jointly taxpayers do. So the strategy I would recommend is contribute to your traditional TSP as a single person today, then after you get married, convert and contribute some of those monies to the Roth TSP and the Roth IRA because you have those roomier married filing jointly tax brackets.
Yeah, and in fact, you and I have talked about it before. It's probably one of the more damning parts of the tax code, being single. So let's get to I'm the surviving spouse and high earning heirs. do factor into that Roth versus traditional, don't they?
Yeah, it's really sad what we do to widows and widowers with the widower penalty. You may have the same household income later, but now you're taxed as a single widow, often at a higher tax bracket. So I encourage families to start moving money as they're married filing jointly in retirement and before over to Roth IRA and Roth TSPs, because that their widow shouldn't have to take a single filer hit in the future. And this is why, sadly, I meet widows who have been widowed for 3 years and I say, oh no, I wish I would have met you when you got divorced or when you were widowed, because that year that you were married filing jointly, that was the year to do major Roth conversions. And plus, maybe you have really great children that are great economic earners to society and they have really high incomes that they're doing better than you. Well, it may make sense to get your money over to a Roth IRA or Roth TSP, because if you pass away, they have a 10-year window to spend down that money in an IRA or TSP, often in their peak earning years. So prepaying some of the taxes now will save not only your kids money, but save you from handing over your legacy to the IRS, who's not even our real Uncle Sam.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so where does the G fund or the fund mix fit into the Roth versus traditional decisions?
Yeah, and this is some of the limitations with TSP because they don't make it very easy. I believe that your TSP and IRA should be invested differently than your Roth IRA and your Roth TSP. And here's why. Your TSP and your IRA should be taxed first, and because you don't know what the future tax rates are. So if they're historically very high or low, depending on which lever we want to pull, we oftentimes pull from the IRA and TSP first. So we're not as investing as aggressively or growth oriented. Maybe we'll sprinkle in some G fund or some F fund in the IRA and traditional TSP. Now, if I could have it my way, I would have the Roth TSP and Roth IRA always invested growth and aggressively for a client. And the reason and logic is if that's the last bucket you plan to use in retirement, we want to take a lot of risk with that money, educated risk, because all of that growth, again, is yours. You're not going to have to share that with the IRS.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. I know you love to put actions to these videos, so let's put some action to it. What can federal employees do this month?
Yeah, number one is map out the next 3 to 5 years. You want to lay out whatever promotions, bonuses, property sales, business sales, and your retirement date all on a project management 3 to 5 year timeline. And then we want to coordinate our spouse's income and our income to test the married filing jointly versus single widower scenarios. How much will our income change at retirement? Does it make sense to use that tax bracket management to contribute more to the Roth or more to the traditional side? If you're deciding on your giving plan for retirement, will you continue to give to your church and charity in retirement? If so, make sure that you have money in traditional TSP and IRAs so that you can keep those dollars set aside pre-tax to give to your church or charity to pay no taxes. All of this mapping out will help you and your family strategize against paying over and above the taxations that you truly owe. It's not patriotic to pay more than you owe. So I hope this was super helpful. If you have questions that we haven't answered in any of our videos, please email us your question and it might turn into our next video here on the channel. But if you have your own questions about retirement, you want to get your own personal federal benefit report, mapping out your pension, your TSP funds, the mix between Roth and traditional, one of my financial planners or I will go one-on-one going through the benefit report, mapping out, are you ready to retire from the federal government, and do you have all your benefits structured like you need them to? So click the link below to schedule that complimentary visit, and I hope you have a blessed day, and we'll see you next time.